Monster Hunter Now has officially been out for a couple of weeks, and this is a video that's got some really helpful tips and tricks that I would have found helpful when I first started out if I knew them. So hopefully this video helps you out in getting started in Monster Hunter Now. Now I'm ranked 47, I'm not the highest rank out there. I'm hoping these tips will be helpful to you, especially starting out. And the first major one I've got is actually using a referral code. And if you want that code, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn that bell on, because I'm going to be uploading quite a lot of videos when it comes to Monster Hunter Now, especially techniques on how to fight some of the late game stuff. That's going to be really useful for you later down the track. Here is the first video though, and that's the first major tip I got, is using a referral code. And I'll have a referral code on the video down the bottom, but also in the description down below. So that is the biggest early game tip, is hoard those items that you get. It gives you potions, it gives you paintballs, and it gives you Zenny. You're going to need a lot of those, especially if you want to grind out the story, because you're going to be fighting a lot of monsters. Second major tip I've got, when you're making weaponry, try not to make two different weapons of the same element type. So don't make two water weapons, for example, like the Jugger's blade just there. Don't then go and make the aqua hammer like I have here, because the trade-off isn't there. It's kind of up to you as to which weapon you decide to pick, but try and use all of them. They each have their benefits and their drawbacks. Like I said, sword and shield is probably one of the easiest. We've got the bow, the gun bow, the long sword, the great sword, sword and shield. I think that's it. Oh, and the hammer. All right, each has their benefits, each has their drawbacks. Use what you like, okay? There's no benefit to using any other weapon. I just really like sword and shield, for example. That's why I've got most of my sword and shield stuff leveled up. So take your pick on those ones. The next tip that I have is to do with element weaknesses. This Tobi-Kadachi that is on the screen right now is weak to water and poison. Make sure you're actually using that. If you try and go into these fights without using a weakness weapon, you are gonna struggle. And that leads me into the next tip that I've got. You're gonna want to make sure you get electric type weapons, and in my opinion, the paralysis weapon from the Gyros stuff is going to be incredibly useful, because the paralysis weapons tend to be really good for the stuff you don't have weapons for in terms of its weakness. So late game, like the Rathian and the Rathalos, who are weak to electric, it's going to be a lot harder to take those on, because the electric weapon's quite weak. So you want to get it early, and you want to pump as much as any and levels into that as you can, because it is a very, very needed weapon. Okay, failing that, there are a lot of Gyroses around, and it's easy to take them out because it's just a water weapon, and Juggresses are one of the first monsters you actually fight in the game. So my recommendation is level those two weapons up before you really do anything else. Okay, you have access to Tobi-Kadachi's quite early. You're going to want to be slaying a lot of them. And right now, there's actually a weekend coming up as of the 6th, 7th, and 8th. There is an event happening for those, so make sure you go out and actually hunt them in the forest areas. Very, very useful weekend. It's going to be really good for us as hunters, because that electric weapon is super needed late game. Kind of the next tip that I have is making sure that you prioritize armor over weaponry in most cases. Now that's kind of up to you, but in my experience, I was always getting absolutely destroyed in every single fight, just getting one shot. So I didn't prioritize my armor, I prioritized weaponry. While I had the DPS, I was just getting thumped, and I was using tons and tons of potions. It was a lot more difficult. So make sure you're actually leveling up your armor, and actually take the time to look at your armor. Look at the different bonuses they give, and see what's going to best suit the way that you play. And make sure you've got certain armor pieces made up so they boost your poison, your water, your ice. It's up to you, but it's going to be helpful fighting the different monsters that exist within the game. It all works in the end, and I probably have to switch some of my armor around, but the benefits are there to take on a multitude of beasts. You can have different loadouts, which is amazing. Make sure you actually take advantage of that. Another major part of this game is going to your resource nodes and using them. You're gonna need very specific things. Bronze monster bones and earth crystals specifically. You want to hoard those, because you're going to use an absolute ton of them in upgrading your weaponry and your armor to the higher tiers. Like once you hit grade 5 and up, you're going to be using a lot of those. So every time you see a node that you haven't gone through, make sure you go through it. You're going to need it. I'm starting to run out of those pieces. Same, actually, this is the next one. Taking out the weenies, the little guys. You're going to run out of sharp claws. I'm struggling to find sharp claws because I got a lot of weaponry leveled up closer to that grade 5, grade 6 area. And it's needed. You need so much of that stuff. Do have a time limit on every fight, so the DPS you need needs to be up there. You're gonna need these higher tier items, and you only get 1 to 2, maybe if you're lucky, from any research node. So make sure you're hoarding those items as much as you can. Be very careful how you're spending those, because you'll need them for a multitude of different things, especially if you're building like the Juggerus armor as well as the weapon. It's going to be hard to manage that because you're going to need to kill double the amount of enemies overall, and it's going to be a lot. Another big tip is if you have a piece of armor that has lock on, it's going to be super, super useful for gaining extra parts, because you can lock onto a specific area of a monster and break it a bit easier, because almost all of your damage is targeted at that area. So that's a super useful thing. Make sure you're using that when you're fighting. As you can see in this Tobi Kadachi fight, I've locked onto its head to try and break its head, so that I can gain extra parts. Every time you break a piece of a monster, it gives you an extra resource from the kill. So use that. Use a lock-on piece of armor. Quite a lot of it has it. The Kulu stuff definitely does, and it's super useful. Make sure you're using your weakness stuff against these bigger monsters, because it is going to be a struggle. I hope this video was very helpful in getting started in this game. I'm gonna have more videos coming out very soon, so I hope you like it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it's very helpful for you in starting out in Monster Hunter now. I'm gonna have more content out very soon in regards to this game, so good luck with your hunting, and I'll see you in the next video.